So first of all, thank you, Mrs. Ip, for coming to Island School. Thanks for spending such precious time of your busy schedule. So I'll skip some questions that perhaps don't relate to today. So first, I'd like to ask, would you agree that the level of civic engagement within our younger generations, i.e. the post-90s and the post-80s, is lower than those of our previous generations?
Well, I don't know of any scientific quantitative studies having been undertaken which provide very firm evidence one way or the other. I don't know. But unfortunately, there seem to be a lot more civic activities in the better resource schools, international schools, independent schools, direct subsidy schools, than in the lower band local schools. In the lower band local schools, the students are just struggling to keep their head above the water, and the parents are also, struggling to make a living, so they don't have the resources to enable the children to take part in more civic activities. And that's why I think the government should do more to encourage that.
So linking back to what you said earlier in the talk, would you mind describing what to you constitutes good civic engagement and what may be bad civic engagement to you?
Yeah. Civic engagement means taking part in activities that relate to society as a whole, going beyond your personal, family, or social circles, doing something for the common good of our society. Good civic engagement activities help us to understand and even resolve conflicts, resulting in a positive effect on society. Bad civic engagement activities produce the opposite effect. That is, they deepen conflicts, they result in greater polarization, even less understanding of the issues involved. And so when we take part in civic engagement activities, we should try to understand what we are doing. Is what I'm doing good for society as a whole or bad for society?
Yeah, thank you. So tying back to the idea of the common good, would you agree that the sort of awareness about the common good and what the more rational common good is sort of decreasing over recent years due to increasing political radicalization?
Well, Hong Kong has a strong tradition of civic engagement going back to post-World War II days. There have been Kai Phong associations, mutual aid committees, charitable organizations, whether they be Tonghua, Poland, Rotaries, or Lions, that devote themselves to helping others. In recent years, they seem to have been overshadowed by politicization, particularly radical political activities. I think we should continue to encourage the traditional forms of civic engagement, which are very good for promoting social cohesion, networking, and bonding. And we should also educate our young people to differentiate between good and bad civic engagement activities that result in positive or negative effects on our society.
Definitely, thank you. So, in terms of politics, how do you view your role in this increasingly radicalized and demanding LegCo?
In Hong Kong, we have a multi-party political system. In spite of that, we basically have two political camps, the so-called pro-China or pro-establishment camp and the pan-democrats camp. Myself and my party, we like to position ourselves as a center ground party, people in the middle, who cater to the independent-minded, thinking voters. Now, this sort of voters, they are small in numbers in Hong Kong as in any community. But it is very important, in my view, for any society to have a growing number of such voters. And we see it as our duty to encourage rational approaches to politics, critical thinking, and in approaching the problems that confront our society.
So would you agree your role is kind of moderating the views
Yes.
and actually find a better way out?
Yes, yes. I like to speak. I like to think of myself as speaking for reason and moderation. For example, a populist question that comes up in electrical all the time is, should the government buy back the link? If you think critically, is it really feasible to buy back the link? It will cost more than 100 billion Hong Kong dollars. And even if you bought back the link, it might not be necessarily possible for us to improve the management. It could result in a waste of public money. So I like to encourage my voters to think analytically and rationally. That's what I mean by speaking for reason and moderation.
So you mentioned the idea of critical thinking. So what to you constitutes the idea of critical thinking and basically analytical thinking?
Critical thinking is really analytical thinking. I think our education authorities have erred in translating it into Chinese as 批判性思考, as though it is thinking directed to leveling criticisms at critiquing others. Stanford University's business school, one of the core classes of the MBA program is critical analytical thinking. It's really training you to construct your arguments, to defend your arguments, and to see through the illogicality of certain arguments, spurious arguments, to train your rational analytical thinking abilities. It's not really training you to critique others. I think it's very important to grasp that point.
Thanks. So in terms of the MNE and moral national education, would you agree that this critical thinking is obviously a very important part of this, but would you agree that the anti-MNE protesters were carrying out something that's negative civic engagement, or would you?
Well, there were large numbers of people opposed to MNE for different reasons. Some of them totally non-political reasons. I've talked to many of them based on the fear of brainwashing. Now that's a legitimate fear, but I think if we have critical thinking, if people trained in critical thinking should be able to really look at the facts, and decide for themselves after the government's refinements of the program. Is it really possible for the government to brainwash people in the classroom? The classroom is in the hands of the teachers. And our students are bright enough, our society is open enough not to permit brainwashing. So in a way, some of the fears I thought were overblown.
So thank you for coming, but what actually motivates you to come to schools to talk to students?
Because I see a lot of problem with our education system. I think our local public school system has failed the middle class. As a middle class parent, I know too many middle class parents who will not send their children to local schools, but to DSS schools, international schools, or even overseas. So I see it as a mission for me to talk to as many students as possible, not only in good schools like island schools, but in the Band 2, Band 3, the more remote schools in Tuen Mun and Yuen Long. I like to, help to train them to think, to read, to understand society better.
Definitely. So thank you for coming. But if you were to sum up your talk today in a key message that you want us to remember, what would it be?
The message is, no man is an island. We all want to connect with a larger whole. We actually create more meaning for our life if we do things not just for ourselves, but for our community as a whole.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you could. I didn't wear any microphone. The recording was good enough.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you.